This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
This is Mike.
And Beck.
And Nina.
And we are Brew Crime. All right, for this episode, we're doing prison breaks, and we've got a collaboration going on here. So can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, everybody. You have Brian from What the Hops podcast with you.
And maybe let the people know where you're from, too.
What the Hops? Well, I'm actually from Buffalo, New York. That's where we do all our things. So I guess I'm basically Canadian, too.
Perfect. We'll take you. I know a lot of people are trying to run right now anyways.
Well, literally, we can just look across the river and see Fort Erie. So plenty of people have tried to swim over from time to time. So
I believe it. All right, and maybe just to give a little bit of a hint of what your show is about, too.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, so for those that don't know, What the Hops podcast is a beer-centered podcast based in Buffalo, New York. We talk a lot about the local scene, but kind of jump all over the place as well. We tend to get off on a lot of different topics, mostly jump in between music and hockey and, random things that we're really kind of passionate about. So it's all over the place, kind of vulgar, kind of just fun for all ages.
Fuck yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, we're going to get right into it here. For the first case of prison breaks, we're going to go on with Beck.
Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right.
This is the real-life Shawshank Redemption case with a little bit of Florida Man thrown in.
How did I not know you were doing this? I love Shawshank Redemption.
He just watched it. So jealous. I haven't
For the
seen it
first
in years.
time?
No.
God.
Oh my god, I was
For
like,
like
what
the 500th
village
time.
did you live in?
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing movie.
People have been talking a lot about it, like possibly being the best 90s movie that exists. I don't know if that's the case, but
It's definitely in the running.
Yeah.
It's definitely in the
Yeah.
running.
Isn't Titanic from the 90s?
Yeah, and still.
Yeah, well, what a piece of crap. I know you love it, Nina, but I saw it once, and that was one time too many.
So what's the beer you paired with this one?
Because of the Florida Man tie-in, I chose a beer called Florida Cracker.
So it is a Belgian-style wheat ale brewed with coriander and orange peel. It's from Cigar City Brewing out of Tampa, Florida. I was actually supposed to go to this brewery when I was in Florida, and that stupid Hurricane Irma screwed up the plans.
they're actually one of my favorite breweries that we just got distribution out this way for. Maduro is actually one of my favorite brown ales.
Oh, nice. That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually new to BC, too. It only got here fairly recently.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are getting out there because they brew some great stuff. So
I'll read the back of the can here. Though it's named for the 18th century cracker cowboys of the Florida prairie, the citrusy notes and effervescent body of this Belgian-style white ale makes it perfect for any lovers of fresh air and the outdoor adventures. 5.5. There we go. All right. Well, let's crack this open then.
Well, while you guys are drinking that, I'm starting myself off with a whale from Community Beer Works.
Thank you.
Nice.
So, it's a 5.9% brown ale out of Buffalo.
Good.
I'm loving the color of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's got kind of a nice, kind of cloudy orange, white head on it. It's got a lot of those like Belgian wit aromas. It's got sort of the citrusy notes. It's got the different spices in it. It's fairly sweet. It smells like summer to me.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's got the wheat notes and the flavor, and lots of citrusy notes, coriander, and all the different spices you expect from this kind of beer. It's not overly sweet. It's kind of dry. Really nice and drinkable.
I also want to mention that one of our listeners, Ian in West Kelowna, actually told me about the place where I got this. There's a a liquor store in West Kelowna called Cask and Barrel.
Oh, nice.
And they had a lot of good,
it's
good options.
Great liquor store up there in the Okanagan.
Mm-hmm. Including a beer that we'll have on a later episode.
Perfect.
That I just had to buy because of the name, which I showed you guys. It's a secret. Okay. We ready?
We're ready. Let's fire into it.
Frank Freshwaters was born April 18, 1936 in Akron, Ohio. On July 3rd, 1957, he was arrested for the accidental death of Eugene Flint. Frank had struck and killed Eugene while speeding. Eugene was an Army veteran and father of 3. He pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and received a 1 to 20-year sentence at the Ohio State Reformatory. Really vague, right?
That's very vague.
So vague.
1 to 20, it's like, we're not sure. We'll
Yeah.
just kind of throw something at the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm. He soon proved himself to be a well-behaved prisoner, so his sentence was suspended and he received 5 years probation. He foolishly violated the terms of his probation agreement and on February 19, 1959 was sent back to prison to finish the remainder of his 20-year sentence.
Wow.
Idiot.
Like, you had a shot, Frank.
Fucked it up.
Yep. Frank again proved that he was a model prisoner and was transferred to Sandusky Honor Farm in Perkins Township. On September 30, 1959, he escaped again. First stop, Florida.
Woohoo!
Of course, right? In Florida, Frank Freshwaters became William Harold Cox.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Of all the names you can pick yourself, you go
I
with
know.
cock. Okay.
plural even. He got a Social Security card and stayed in Florida for a while before moving on to West Virginia, where he worked as a truck driver for Hennis Trucking and Chemical Lehman Tank Lines.
It's a mouthful.
That is maybe too long. Not exactly catchy. He also worked as a mobile librarian. That's fun.
What? What is a mobile librarian?
Like the library van or truck or whatever. It's a van full of books that goes to like smaller areas that
Like
don't
an ice
have
cream
library.
truck, but with no fun in it, just books.
And books are fun.
I would think if I'm a fugitive, I wouldn't want to have any kind of mobile job whatsoever.
At least you can move faster.
Yeah.
You know what I
Start
mean?
dumping
Like,
Yeah.
books out the back, throwing them at the windshield. Someone's chasing you. Frank/William, whom I shall call Franium, was arrested on an Ohio warrant in Charleston, West Virginia, when Ohio authorities realized who he was. The problem that the Ohio authorities had was that Franium's new community rather enjoyed having him around. Franium, quote, played guitar and had a strong affinity for country music, end quote.
Hate him.
I'm not sure how that's relevant
No.
at all, but okay. It wasn't just the community that didn't want him to go. In March of 1976, Governor Arch Moore refused to send him back to Ohio. He even wrote an official letter stating that while he had committed a crime, Franium was a good citizen with a flawless 16-year residency. He didn't say Franium, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Franium was released and went back into hiding. Not in West Virginia, though. He decided to head back to
Florida.
Melbourne, Florida, to be precise. Why would he leave? Like, you're living in a state who's like, we don't care that you killed someone and escaped prison. We'll protect you.
Yeah.
And he leaves. What a genius. Okay, get ready for a story derailment, because I found some interesting information about this Arch Moore guy. What an amazing governor to stand on the side of this escaped but rehabilitated prisoner. Or maybe he just had a skewed view of the criminal justice system. Arch served 2 terms back-to-back, 1969 to 1977. He was the first governor in West Virginia to do so. Of course, it wasn't legal to serve more than 1 term until 1968, so it's not really that impressive. He was an avid supporter of highway improvements. During his first 2 terms, West Virginia built over 225 miles, or 362 kilometers of highway.
Wow.
However, by 1975, the waters around his infallibility were becoming murky. Arch and his 1972 campaign manager stood accused of extorting $25,000 from the president of a holding company who was trying to open a new bank. Both were acquitted in 1976, though, so maybe I was wrong to doubt him. Or was I?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, that could have gone better. In the last week of his second term, Arch accepted a $1 million payment from Pittston Coal Company to settle accounts from the Buffalo Creek disaster. The state had initially sued for $100 million. The reduced settlement accepted by Arch did not come close to covering the $9.5 million cleanup costs. What a greedy D-bag.
Yeah, no shit.
Way to ruin 8 years of service in your last week, you idiot. In 1988, the unpaid costs were reimbursed by the state of West Virginia. They'd been warned as early as the late 1960s of the likelihood and detrimental impact of the Buffalo Creek flooding. They did nothing to prevent the accident from occurring.
It sounds it's very West Virginia. Like,
Is it?
I've gone whitewater rafting down there before, and yeah, they can get pretty intense, and the people down there just don't really know what the hell's going on half the time. They're just kind of there. But yeah, no, the locals down in West Virginia are exactly what the documentaries on Netflix tell you they are. So
Scary.
Basic.
When we went whitewater rafting, my one friend was in a pretty big goth phase, and yeah, you don't want to be at a campground with a goth kid in West Virginia.
I'm not surprised.
Maybe that much.
It later came to light that this wasn't the only shadiness around the Buffalo Creek disaster. After the flood, Arch tried to use disaster relief funds to build a limited-access superhighway to connect Logan County with Raleigh. Several hundred properties were purchased by the state via eminent domain. That's where the government can seize your property for public use as long as they pay you market value. A 2-lane road was constructed, but the highway that was promised never came to fruition. And on top of that, the state refused to sell the former owners back their land.
Oh, nice.
Even though they weren't using it. The fuck? Arch also promised to build a community center as part of the rebuilding effort. Didn't happen. 600 survivors filed lawsuits through a Washington, D.C. law firm called Arnold and Porter. It resulted in a $13.5 million settlement. Arnold and Porter took a portion of the legal fees paid to them and had the community center constructed at their own expense. With all this new information, Arch was legally barred from seeking a third term. Being the stand-up guy that he is, he totally listened. He didn't run for re-election. Instead, he embarked on a 2-year campaign for the state's other Senate seat. The information I had about that seat was that it, quote, was expected to be vacated by the aging Jennings Randolph in 1978, end quote. I had to know how old he was. If he's so, aging. 45. The man described as being in decline was only 45.
That's crazy.
Doesn't make me feel great.
No doubt.
I didn't find anything suggesting that he was ill in any way, so I don't know what the hell, but whatever. What matters is that not only did Randolph beat Arch in 1978, he held the seat from November of 1958 to January of 1985. So
Is that a long time? I can't math quick. Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a long time, yeah. Arch couldn't leave well enough alone. He ran for governor in 1980 and lost. He ran again in 1984 and became the only West Virginia governor to be elected to 3 terms in office. He quickly turned his attention to highways, and in 1988 saw to it that the last major section of Interstate Highway was completed. He ran for re-election in 1988, but was defeated, and not by a little. At least his final term was clean, right? No. In 1990, after an in-depth federal investigation, Arch was accused of accepting illegal payments during his 1984 and 1988 campaigns, extorting almost $575,000 from Mabin Energy Corporation and for obstructing the investigation. He pled guilty to 5 felonies after he was told that federal investigators had taped him conspiring with his former campaign manager, John Leeberry. The agreement was that he would serve 2 years and 8 months in federal prison and 4 months of home confinement at his home in Glendale, Marshall. How's that fair?
Yeah, no.
Oh, you're going to have to serve your time in your huge house, which you wouldn't really need to leave anyway, because I bet your wife does everything for you anyway. Arch tried to withdraw his guilty plea, but the United States Court of Appeals was having none of it. Arch continued to claim he was innocent until his death. As it turns out, the move wasn't such a bad idea for him. By 1986, he was living in Florida with his girlfriend, Brenda, and one of his sons, Jim Cox. His other son's name is Jeff Lloyd. Franium went on to marry Brenda, but sadly she died in 1999 of terminal cancer. In early 2015, the Marshals Service started a cold case unit in northern Ohio. The search for Frank Freshwaters was back on. By late April, they had determined that he may be living in Melbourne, Florida. On May 4th, 2015, they approached the ramshackle trailer that Franium was living in. I saw pictures of it. It really looks like shit. The only pictures I could find were really far away, though, so I didn't bother saving them. Google it yourself, you lazy bastards. It was located on the property of Senator Thad Altman's parents. Franium was a sort of caretaker that kept to himself. He occasionally fished on the property and warded off trespassers. The marshals showed Franium a photograph of Frank Freshwaters from 1959 and asked if he had seen the man. Franium answered, quote, "I haven't seen him in a long time."
Oh, of course.
So he wasn't lying, right? Smart alecky comments aside, Franium soon confessed and was arrested without much fuss. At the time, it was the longest capture in U.S. Marshal history. Franium was extradited back to Ohio to serve his sentence at the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. Brad Gessner, chief counsel with the Summit County Prosecutor's Office, accused Franium of escape ID fraud and Social Security fraud. Quote, "Frank Freshwaters did not earn this money, and he did all of this as a fugitive on the run." End quote. The parole board received over 2,000 letters from over half a dozen states supporting the release of Frank. I'm calling him Frank now again because we all know who he is, so whatever. On February 25th, 2016, after hearing Frank's attorney argue that Frank had caused no harm whatsoever during his many years evading officials, he was released on 5 years probation just 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Yep.
That's insane.
And the only reason it took that long was because the lawyers were required to submit a detailed plan of where he'd be living during the probation, so his sons had to figure that part out.
Wow.
I think it's a horrible thing for his attorney to say that he didn't hurt anyone while he was in hiding, because what about Eugene Flint's family? What about his wife, who had to raise their kids on her own, and she wasn't even 25 yet?
Yeah. Especially back then, too. That's kind of a little rough, you know?
Yeah.
It's a douche move.
Definitely is.
So what the hell does all this have to do with the movie Shawshank Redemption? The prison that Frank was sent to, Ohio State Reformatory, is the prison that Shawshank occurs in, and he escaped. That's seriously the only connection.
God.
Yeah. I'm sure you're all disappointed with the mediocre connection to such a great movie, but you're not as disappointed as I was after doing all this research and finding out that that was it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still connections with, lots of money laundering issues and stuff. Sort of. Not really.
No.
Frank is still not revealed how he managed to escape, but I sure hope it was not the same way that Andy Dufresne did. Because, ew, that was disgusting.
Yeah. It's kind of shitty, yeah.
Okay.
Ha.
Yeah, that's my story.
So did his kids know after the fact, like when the feds came and got him, were they like, hey, did he go to like his new family being like, oh, by the way, I'm this guy. Sorry. See you guys. What happened?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't think to look it up. I don't know. Would you tell your kids that if you were like an escaped convict?
Yes.
But had been for
A long
he was
time.
like he was out for over a decade before he had kids.
Yeah, I mean, I get why he probably figured it's like, oh, well, the past is the past. But if I'm his wife and kids and stuff, I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
Yeah,
who are you?
definitely.
At least the wife should have known.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know because she passed before he got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even worse. All right, well, we'll get set up for the next story then. Why don't you let people know what your story's about?
Well, my story is on the 1971 riot at the Attica Correctional Facility out here in Western New York. So, for a little geography lesson, Attica is roughly about 30 miles outside of Buffalo and probably it's about 30 miles east of Buffalo and maybe about the same distance south of Rochester. So back in the 70s, New York City would send all their criminals basically out this way. So we had quite a bit of correctional facilities out here.
Oh, fine.
And it was one of those things where people that live out this way, that's like, hey, that's what I'm going to do because it's a great paying state job and, I can do what I want. And especially it became kind of very, very nepotistic and just you started seeing a lot of these trends. And especially if you think back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right in the height of the civil rights movement, you can just imagine what was happening in some of these prisons.
Oh, I bet.
And, that's kind of what sparked this whole thing. But to a random little side note too, some of the fun people that got to stay over at Attica, we had Son of Sam himself staying at Attica for a little bit, David Berkowitz. Mark David Chapman was there for a while. He's actually moved even closer to Buffalo and still there currently at Wendy Correctional Facility in Alden, New York.
Jeez.
So if you happen to want to go and yell at him for, killing John Lennon, you can just drive 15 minutes outside of Buffalo and, yell things.
I'm sure you'll hear it.
And then El Sayed Nasir, one of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing terrorists, actually stayed at Attica for a little bit too.
Holy crap.
So, they send random people out there, especially for pretty bad crimes and stuff. The Attica prison riot of 1971 took place Thursday, September 9th, and continued over the span of 4 days, ending on Monday, September 13th. Issues began to build in the prison leading up to the riot due to overcrowding and poor treatment of the inmates. With over 50% of the inmate population being African American and almost all of the staff being white, there were many racial issues stirring in the prison system at the time, whether it was in Attica or throughout the country, really.
Oh, really? For sure, yeah.
On the morning of the 9th, a gate leading between blocks of the prison malfunctioned, and some of the prisoners felt they were being trapped in there, getting ready to be abused by some of the guards. So they overthrew the guards that were trapped with them, grabbed their keys, unlocked the other inmates from other blocks, eventually gaining control of B and D block of the prison.
Wow.
Over 1,200 inmates held the area with 43 hostages.
Holy balls.
Now, mind you, at the time, Attica holds roughly about 2,200 people. At this time, I think there's mixed reports saying there's about anywhere from 2,350 to 2,500 people staying there.
Wow.
So, trying to add
staying there.
trying to add trying to add a couple hundred more people into an area that you're already cramped. Yeah, it's probably wasn't too hot.
No.
But there were about 1,200 inmates took place in the riots and held the area with 43 hostages as they began negotiations with the New York State Commissioner of Corrections, Russell Oswald. Taking a look into Oswald a little bit, he was looked at as very liberal for his position at the time. trying to make some changes in the prison system. This would end up killing all of that, though. Like, his reputation was destroyed with this, though.
Oh,
so inmates were seeking complete amnesty and safe passage to a non-imperialistic country, and requested to have negotiations go through several individuals, including William N. Kunstler, a radical civil rights lawyer at the time, Tom Wickler, a journalist from the New York Times, and Assemblyman Arthur O. Eve of Buffalo, New York. Inmates also sought improvements in diet and health care within the prison, religious freedom, no censorship on incoming printed materials that they had access, or censorship on any letters, and the hiring of minorities within the prison. During this time, the time of negotiations, the press and TV media were also asked to be witness to the negotiations by the inmates to ensure fair treatment.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was actually probably one of the first and probably only times you had press like being asked into a prison in a situation like this.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was pretty crazy. On the first day, they were going out because they had access to televisions and radios and everything. So they're out there. They're inside the prison. They're listening to what people are reporting, and the state was basically saying that, oh yeah, they're doing this, they're doing that, and the inmates were just like, no, we need someone in here to see what's going on because they're lying to you right now.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
they wanted to expose it. Reporters were able to interview hostages during the time, finding hostages were being treated fairly, and rioters created almost a village within the prison to continue holding out for their demands. The tactic of bringing the media in during the negotiations worked in favor of the inmates as it helped humanize them and expose the conditions in which they were being kept. It helped give them voice to the outside world, where if there was no media, the interaction to the story may be told differently. While Oswald tried to maintain peaceful negotiations, it began to become clear that amnesty wasn't going to be an option. As days went on, after an injured guard died on September 12th, inmates began to grow worrisome that force would be used. On the morning of September 13th, hostages were selected by inmates to be brought up to the catwalks of the prison, blindfolded, with knives held to their throats.
That kind of hurts your
Yeah.
friendly treatment.
Your image, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of almost felt they had no choice but to kind of show, hey, we really want to continue with this, but we're not messing around.
Yeah.
So, like, it was kind of one of those things where they were really, their backs were up against the wall.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Around approximately 9:45 a.m., helicopters dropped tear gas into the prison yard. Shortly after, about 500 or so state troopers and soldiers stationed outside of the prison opened fire into the smoke. When the dust settled, there were 128 wounded and 39 dead.
Holy shit.
29 inmates and 10 hostages.
Wow.
During the time of the riot, the inmates weren't in possession of any firearms whatsoever. Reports began to leak that the hostages had their throats cut, prompting false headlines throughout the country and worldwide to be printed on papers, only later to be debunked by the coroner, who found the cause of death to be gunshot wounds. Among the dead was Elliot L.D. Barkley, a 21-year-old who had become one of the vocal leaders during the negotiations. Reports from the inmates say he was sought out by guards and shot during the raid to regain control. One inmate, Frank Big Black Smith, survived to tell stories of how police brutalized those who outlasted the gunfire by forcing them to strip naked, crawl through the mud, then would be beaten as they made their way back into the blocks. Reports of gunshots in the distance over the next days after the prison was restored made many inmates fearful for their safety. In the years after the events, inmates involved were held accountable for the crimes committed. On December 15, 1972, 62 of the inmates received 42 indictments on over 1,200 counts related to the incident. On March 21, 1973, it was announced that no guards, officers, troops, or officials involved in the incident would be indicted. So the state was very, yeah, we had nothing to do with this. They were all at fault. In 1975, however, New York State Deputy Attorney General Bernard Meyer released his investigation report on the incident, stating while there wasn't an intentional attempt to cover up anything there were serious judgments and omissions made by the state police in the gathering of the evidence of the report. Meyer felt Deputy Attorney General Robert Fisher may have let conflict of interest prevent him from dealing with the investigation more firmly. Stories begin to become uncovered of brutality of the inmates in the days after the riots. The Attica prison riot took place at a time where racial unrest was rampant in a rural town and housed mostly urban convicts. The disconnect between the imprisoned and those watching over them was rather large. After the riots, the system began to see some changes instituted. However, the argument can be made that we haven't seen much advancement in the prison system in the last 48 years. In popular culture, I mean, you have a lot of parallels to what happened there in shows like The Wire and Orange is the New Black. Obviously, movies were made with Attica in 1980 with Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
Attica follows the story as kind of told by Tom Wickler, the journalist from the Times that was in there a little bit. Against the Wall was an HBO movie in 1994 starring Samuel L. Jackson, which follows the story around one of the hostages, Michael Smith. John Lennon, Paul Simon wrote songs about the incident, and rappers like Nas and Raekwon reference it in songs as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where it really kind of helped expose what the prison system was really doing at the time, and helped, I guess, change it a little bit. And I mean, especially during the civil rights movement, it was a huge deal. If anybody has a chance, there's a documentary called Attica that was released in 1974 by Cinder Firestone that has a lot of like television footage and stuff that's pretty intense. It's kind of like a humbling thing. If you've watched any kind of like old documentaries where it's just kind of like, hey, this is footage and this is what it is, like it's something that kind of you're like, oh shit, this is real life, like you can't make it up.
Did you say it's just called Attica?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's on YouTube and like I think Daily Motion and stuff like that. But Cinda Firestone is the director of it.
I'll have to look that up.
And yeah, it's like maybe about just over an hour in that. But yeah, that's the story of the Attica prison riot in 1971. And yeah, I by all means I suggest people go and kind of look into it a little more to kind of give you an idea of what was really happening in the 70s and the civil rights movement.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I know there's all kinds of horrible things going on back then. So
now.
Yeah, well, now, yeah, kind of taking a bit of a regression these days.
Yeah, it's let's just hope that it doesn't get back to something like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Very scary.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that was great. So we will get ready for the next one then.
So before we get into the beer that I picked, the story that I decided to do for this week is the escape from Alcatraz. I think it's a pretty well-known case. Unlike the stories that we've already heard today, I spent about 0 time talking about the escapees and just about how they actually got out.
Awesome.
So for my pairing, I picked by myself this time, might I add. Yes, I was let loose in a liquor store. It was great. So obviously the escape from Alcatraz happened in San Francisco Bay. So I have a beer that's from California. It's not from San Francisco Bay, but it's from, and I just have to say because I think it's funny and because I'm petty like that, from Placentia, which I first read as placenta. And I was just having a good old little chuckle by myself in the corner of the liquor store. The name of the beer is Mischief. So I thought that kind of matched the story. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to crack it open and not break a nail and then let Mike talk about it.
And it's a hoppy Belgian style ale and it's 8.5% alcohol.
Who's it from?
It's from the brewery.
Oh, nice.
Can you see?
I can.
Haha, can.
The can. You saw the can. I can.
Okay. The brewery makes some delicious stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like funky things that they do too, which is awesome.
It's funny that we both chose Belgian style.
So this one actually looks kind of similar to the last one. It's cloudy orange, white head. It's got kind of the Belgian yeast, the fruitiness that you get from it. Mildly sweet, sort of a candy fruit nose. It's got lots of orange flavor. It's got the Belgian yeast. It's fairly dry. There's not a lot of sweetness, but it's really tasty, really fruity. A little bit of spices from the Belgian style ale. It kind of hides the alcohol pretty well. It doesn't taste like 8.5 to me.
It does not.
A little bit of like citrus pith in the background. Really drinkable.
I really like that word,
Yeah.
pith.
Perfect. Well, yeah, no, it's a great beer. I really haven't had a bad beer. I've had some weird beers from them, but never a bad beer.
I feel like I had like a some kind of like dessert macadamia one that they make at a share one time that just tasted off. And I don't know if it was like because of like whoever brought it or whatever else, or maybe it was the batch or something, but something wasn't right with it. But it was also probably like the 10th beer into the share, so it was,
Okay. What could have been even worse then?
Okay, so let's talk some Alcatraz. Some might say it was one of the most ingenious prison breaks of all time. In 1962, inmates and bank robbers Frank Morris and John and Clarence Anglin vanished. The June 1962 Alcatraz escape attempt was a prison break from Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, a maximum security facility located on an island in Francisco Bay. I'm sure some people have seen pictures of Alcatraz, but like
I was there. It was amazing.
like it looks dope ass. Like I haven't been, but all the pictures I've seen looks
you have
great.
to do.
I was there as a kid, yeah.
If
well,
you
because
go,
it's like a state park now, right?
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
But if you go, you have to do the audio walking tour. It's the best.
I will not go there when I'm in San Francisco. If I ever
Yeah.
make it there,
Yeah.
it's just
You'll love it.
sacrilegious.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cold, and bring a snack or something because they have nothing to eat.
That's the problem, guys. I
I feel like if you put a Starbucks in Alcatraz, it would kind of like take away the vibe.
No, but like there's a whole gift shop.
You know
It's
how
quite
many-
large, and they have like one thing to eat, and it's chocolate fingers.
which are delicious.
They are, but also not enough if you're actually hungry.
Yeah.
True. Okay, so Morris and the Anglins attempted to escape on June 11th in 1962. They went to the unguarded 3-foot wide utility corridor of B Block, which ran behind their cells and reached above to all floors of the prison complex with pipes perfect for climbing. To gain access to the corridor, the prisoners chiseled out a vent at the back of their cells using makeshift tools such as spoons, soldered with the silver from a dime, and a drill improvised from the motor of a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, nice.
Like that's pretty sick, right? That's
It's smart. Ingenious.
After they were able to finally pass through the vents at the appointed time each night, they climbed to the top of the cell block to prepare there for their big escape. Their absence would have been noticed by the guards who made hourly rounds had it not been for the lifelike dummy heads that the inmates left on their beds. So I'll have some pictures which I'll include with the story, but I don't know if everyone's seen what a blow-up doll looks like. These fucking heads look like cut-off blow-up doll heads. It is just the weirdest thing, and they're creepy, and how these guys made it, like innovation and do more with less. Shall I quote one of the old core values from our old work? But it's just incredible what they were actually able to fashion and come up with. I don't know. And one of them must have had some kind of makeup classes or something, because the face... Anyways, it's just trippy.
Especially not to get caught, too. You know, like, I mean, it's not like you're making that all in one night, right?
No. So what they had done, they actually repurposed soap, concrete powder, and they even stole hair from the barber shop to put on the hair of the heads.
Creepy.
So it's literally, if you think of like every teenage girl, boy, person that ever snuck out at night, and they like put like books in the bed to like make it look like a body lump
Body hump
log. I don't know.
I lived in the middle of nowhere. I'd have gotten eaten by wolves or something if I did that.
Well, I didn't have to escape in my room. I just told my mom I'm going out, so I don't know. I didn't have to do it this savage, but
Savage.
Yeah. It's savage. It is. But essentially, yeah. So how they were able to get away at night when they had these hourly checks is that they used books as the bodies and had these fucking heads that they made. It's great. It's like SFX. It's dope. And obviously it worked.
That means somebody in that prison wasn't doing their fucking job.
No, definitely.
He's just kind of walking. He's just walking through and just kind of being like, yeah, they're there.
But just,
You know, like,
just imagine, like, obviously after the escape happened and all that, you just think you got fooled by a fucking soap head. Like,
Yeah.
come
oh,
on.
dude. You know that guy got made fun of so much in the locker room or whatever afterwards.
I hope you
Or
got to
probably
take the
goes
head
like-
home. Like, anyways.
This is what your mistake looks like, Ted.
So since they intended to get to the roof via fan vent, they first removed the blades and its motor, leaving only the grill. Afterwards, with a and I'm not going to say this right, so just bear with me, carborundum, abrasive, and afterwards with a cord, they smuggled from the prison workshop. They extracted the rivets of the grill, cleaning the shaft for their passage. Obviously, they spent several weeks digging this hole to get everywhere to escape. What helped? That's
You
my
guys aren't
escaping
seeing
motion.
Nina's
Oh, yeah,
little
no.
paws digging here.
He is.
Well, he is, but I mean, our listeners
Oh,
aren't
yes.
seeing how cute it is.
Did you want me to take a picture of it?
This is just for the room, guys.
Yeah.
A special showing of the Nina show. Alcatraz Music Hour, a recently implemented activity. Dozens of people simultaneously playing the accordion and other instruments made a lot of noise that resounded through the cement-walled cell block and serving to disguise their drilling. Their progress was concealed by false walls, which in dark recess of the cells fooled the guards. Since they intended to get to the roof via fan vent, they first removed the blades and its motor, leaving only the grill. Afterwards, with a cord smuggled from the prison workshop, they extracted the rivets of the grill, clearing the shaft to their passage. The escapees spent many weeks in construction and improvising an inflatable raft and life vests for more than 50 prison raincoats, all stolen, which is also amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Late on Monday, June 11th, the 3 inmates tucked their dummy heads into their beds, broke out of the main prison building via the unused utility corridor, and departed from Alcatraz Island aboard the raft to an uncertain fate. It remains unknown what happened to them after entering San Francisco Bay. So some of the research that I found said that they survived, that they didn't survive, and it's kind of an unknown thing. No conclusive evidence has ever surfaced to either prove the success or failure of the attempt. In 1979, the FBI officially concluded, based on circumstantial evidence and an expert opinion, and I couldn't find out whose expert opinion, but an expert opinion,
Reliable. Go ahead.
that the men drowned in the San Francisco Bay while trying to reach land. Morris and the Anglin brothers are still included in the FBI's wanted list. In the early 2010s, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2010s, circumstantial evidence came to light which would appear to suggest that the men had actually survived. Contrary to official instances, investigators did find a raft on Angel Island and thought the FBI asserted that no cars were reported stolen. However, in 1955, blue Chevrolet was stolen after the escape by 3 men who may have been Morris and the Anglins.
That can't be a coincidence. It can't.
Nope. The importance of the leaked evidence suggests that officials engaged in a cover-up. Relatives of the Anglin brothers presented further circumstantial evidence in the mid-2010s in support of a long-standing rumor that the Anglin brothers had fled to Brazil following the escape. A facial recognition analyst concluded that one piece of physical evidence, a 1975 photograph of 2 men alleged to be John and Clarence Anglin, did support that conclusion. They had a picture of these 2 dudes, and the face dude said that it looked like them.
Wow.
So the government basically tried to cover it up because they're like, yeah, no, they're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one can escape from the inescapable prison.
Yeah, sort of like the unsinkable ship couldn't be sunk, right?
Exactly. It
And
never
we're back to the
happened.
90s and Titanic. I'm telling you guys.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. Also, this made me feel a lot like the movie Inception. We're hiding like on the island. Of course, they couldn't escape the island. It turns out that Leo was just like fucking batshit, which I'm tying it back into Titanic because Leo, you're welcome.
Wow.
Wah.
Wah,
All right.
wah, wah. Anyways, that's all I had. They never reported anything on the other dude, just that these 2 brothers maybe. So I suppose it's a mystery. Maybe that raft. I don't know how many rafts you're going to see made out of freaking raincoats.
Yeah. Who knows?
I bet 1. But anyways, that's my story.
Basically, everybody at Alcatraz was run pretty poorly then, huh? If you could steal 50 raincoats and be fooled by books and a doll head, it's kind of.
But I'm thinking too, like, I don't think they had like an inventory manager to keep count of all the books that they had, or like all the raincoats or that shit. But I think the other thing too, maybe one of the reasons that the security may have been more relaxed or slack about it is because they're like, we're on a fucking island. Where are they going to go?
And it's supposed to be the water rushes so fast in there. That's why most people die when they tried to break out of there. It's just because the water was so cold and moved so fast, just swept you out to the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So when I was there, it said there was actually a part of the island for the warden and his wife and kids. They lived there on the island with all the prisoners.
Oh, wow. Poor kids.
What did they do?
Took a ferry every day to the mainland.
Yeah.
Let's go play with the other people on the island.
No, Bobby. You can't. They're criminals.
Yeah.
I want to go play in that playground.
Yeah, so obviously I'll post a picture of the 3 guys and like one of the false walls that they built. But literally these heads, like there's actually a picture of them, like it looks like someone had a genius idea to lift the blanket and see the books and like the fake heads flop over. What the fuck they were thinking, or how they got away with it, but kudos to them. I don't know. I think it's pretty badass.
That's pretty sweet.
If you're going to be in the area, or if you live in the area, you really have to go to Alcatraz. It was so cool. And you can like go into the solitary confinement cell. Like they'll let you in there with the door closed just to see if you can handle it.
That'd be awesome.
It's something else.
I learned that from watching wrestling. Roddy Piper did that in 1 year and decided to do that. So any of your wrestling fans have seen that footage.
What do you, like? So you're just in the room with a door closed,
no light.
It's completely black, and it's only.
It sounds amazing. I could sleep so good.
It's only like 4x4 or something ridiculous. Like it's tiny.
So you can't lay down.
It must be larger than 4x4 because I assume it would be illegal to lock someone in a room where they can't even lay down.
Well, they also have regulations to how many people you can stuff into a jail, and no one seems to give a shit about that either. So
fair.
I don't know, but you know what? I bet you bunk.
Well,
beds
it's haunted as well.
Obviously, it is because if these guys actually died jumping off the cliffy thing, obviously I'd haunt the place too. Mm-hmm. Do you think that bunk beds were created in prisons because that's how you can put more people in?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I assume they were made for twins, but that's just my experience.
Well, it's because you're a twin, so that's not fair.
Hey guys, this is Nina of Brew. Have you heard about the Podcoin app yet? This is the first podcast app that will actually pay you to listen to your favorite podcasts. You can find the podcast app on Android and iPhone, and not only is it free, but it's really simple to use. While listening to podcasts, you gain Podcoins that can then be used to buy gift cards or even be donated towards charity. So either give to a good cause or get a gift card for places like Amazon or Starbucks. You're already spending time listening to podcasts, why not make some money while you're at it? If you use the invite code BREWCRIME, one word, no spaces, you can even earn 300 bonus Podcoins just for signing up. So head over to your app store and give Podcoin a try now.
So I'm going to do the story. It's the first Canadian helicopter prison break. It happened in Kent Institution out here in BC. For the beer, I've got a beer from Twin Sails Brewing, and it's a collaboration with Fieldhouse Brewing. So it's a collaboration between Port Moody and Abbotsford.
I love both of those
and
breweries.
It's called As If. So you can kind of see where it's going to go with the story, right? It's a dry hopped sour ale with Brettanomyces, dry hopped with Amarillo or Amarillo, whatever, Idaho 7 and Citra. The second version of our collaboration with our friends at Fieldhouse Brewing, this multigrain ale fermented in fresh Chardonnay barrels with Fieldhouse lactoculture. We then aged in barrels for 6 months with Brettanomyces, then heavily dry hopped it before allowing it to naturally carbonate in the bottle. This beer is 6.2% alcohol.
That label is extremely subtle.
Yes, it literally, all it says on it is as if.
Reminds me of the movie, another great movie, since we're on the topic, called Clueless, where she goes, as if.
As if.
Love it.
I haven't seen that in a long time, too.
I would argue that that's top 10 in 90s movies easily.
As is Silence of the Lambs, which I had to Google because it's my favorite, actually.
Nice. Pour what we
Oh,
want.
I'm so happy it's not super dark because I was really...
It's sour, though. So we'll see if you like it or not.
Oh, it smells sour. Yeah.
All right, so this one actually looks almost the same as the last one. It's cloudy orange. It's got a really, really fluffy white head, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed at just how big the bubbles are.
Nina loves it.
And it hasn't dissipated yet either.
So it's got kind of that note that you're going to tell, or you can tell there's some wild yeast and there's going to be something sour in there.
If you if you don't waft it properly, if you just sniff it, it makes you cough. That's how sour.
Oh, not for me.
Yeah, but look how heady yours is. You've got a filter.
But it's got lots of stone fruit and citrus fruit. It's got the barrel character. It's got a little bit of the wine character on the nose.
It does.
It smells amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really conflicted with this beer because it really hurts the first 30 milliseconds it's in my mouth, but then when it gets to the back of the throat, I'm like, oh, it's fucking so fresh and delicious.
Yeah, it's like
really
fruit
confusing.
juice. It
is.
It's tart. It's quite tart, but it's tangerine and orange and some stone fruit. It's just fruit juice.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
this,
I've decided I don't like it.
This is gorgeous beer. I love this beer. I had it when they first released it, and when I was actually hoping to get a beer called Beach Week, which would tie into the story quite well too, but they were sold out, so I settled on this one, and I'm still so happy I got this because this is a really tasty beer.
They had it at the West Kelowna place I was talking
I bet
about.
they would. Yeah, I didn't
Is that-
pick it until yesterday though.
Is that a beer that you can get regularly out there?
No. It was only the second time they had brewed that one, actually, too. Twin Sails does a lot of one-offs. They do a lot of the hazy IPAs. They're getting into a lot of barrel-aged wines, wine barrel-aged and bourbon barrel-aged beers now. But it's always all kinds of one-offs and not a lot of ones that stick around.
Gotcha.
So before we get started, let's start with some information about the prison where the prison break happened. Kent Institution is a maximum security federal prison and the only one in British Columbia and the Yukon Territory. It is located near the town of Agassiz and the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and is about 116 kilometers or 72 miles from Vancouver. It has a medium security federal penitentiary, Mountain Institute, next door. These are both federal prisons housing the worst of the worst prisoners in Western Canada. Kent Institution is known for its educational programs as well as its socialization and employment programs. So they try to rehabilitate even the worst of the worst at this place, trying to get them back into society because it's not a for-profit prison.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird having a Canadian prison story. I didn't realize you guys had crazy prisons up there.
They're not. I don't think they're not as crazy as American maximum security. I don't think there's any supermax prisons in Canada. There's different levels, but still. So because of these educational programs and everything, this is why many of the prisoners come from other provinces, as they are hoping to rehabilitate them. The Kent Institution was built in 1979 and was built to replace the BC Penitentiary. British Columbia Penitentiary was the first federal prison west of Manitoba and was built in 1878, making it 102 years old when it was shut down in 1980. What a shithole that place must have been.
Right.
If you're too unsafe, for the 80s.
Yeah, no shit. So, Kent was rated at a capacity of 378 people, according to the Correctional Services Canada, but it appears to operate at about 298 inmates. It's a pretty small prison, really.
That is quite small.
Canada.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Well,
Canada.
when prisons aren't run for profit, you don't need to make them as big.
Yeah, also if
That's
pot's
true.
legal, that helps.
Well,
Also
pot's
because everyone
legal
in
more
Canada
recently.
is nice.
Fuck
and we
that.
don't do bad things.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, our show kind of proves that's not true.
Oh, right. We talked about Clifford Olson last
Now,
time.
so like I said, it holds up to 378 people. It operates at about 298 people. The facility employs over 300 staff members.
Oh,
Does each person
Okay.
have their own chaperone?
But I mean, hey, you're not going to have a lot of problems in a prison that has that many staff members.
like
And that's going to be
a-
everything. That's like food services. That's everything, right?
You can't trick a guy with a pile of books and a in a dummy head.
No, but
There's 300 people in there.
Trick him with something else, right? So the most notorious inmates that this prison has held are Robert Picton, pig farmer,
Boo.
and Terry Driver.
Yeah.
Who the fuck's
Also,
that?
So Terry Driver was the Abbotsford killer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, yeah, he attacked teenage girls with a baseball bat and then taunted the police with letters and phone calls because they didn't catch him right away.
How did I not know about this guy?
Yeah, we'll probably cover him at one point.
Okay.
All right, so June 18th, 1990 was a bad day for the Kent Institution. Robert Lee Ford was serving a life sentence for first-degree murder at the young age of 32, and David Ross Thomas was serving an 8-year sentence for robbery and was 24. Well, I can find little information about David. I could definitely find some about Robert. Robert Lee Ford was a one-time drug boss on Vancouver Island, located sort of mid-island. He was known to boast, "I own this valley," when he talked about his area of Vancouver Island. He laundered his drug money through his trucking company called Greed Incorporated.
Well, that's apt.
That's no lie.
Greed Incorporated.
Yeah.
It's a bit on the nose.
He escaped his first prison in 1988 while he awaited trial. He was being held at the Vancouver Island Regional Correctional Center in Saanich. He and 2 other inmates used a hydraulic jack to spread the prison cell bars apart on their window. I have no idea how they managed to get a jack, but they were arrested after a week and a half on the run. Like, how the fuck do you get a hydraulic jack into your prison cell?
Did they maybe have like a body workshop? Because I know in the States, some of the prisons are making license plates and shit. So like maybe they just have access to.
But
How do you get it out of the workshop?
Yeah.
Through the halls
Into
and
your
into your
cell.
cell.
I
You
mean,
have to have someone like a guard or something that you're paying.
Paid
Yeah.
off, yeah.
yeah, or like a cart that they like cart the food around, put it on the cart. I don't know. I think I would be a better mastermind to bring a hydraulic thing into my room than make a fucking fake blow up doll
Maybe
head.
it's like Shawshank Redemption, and when Red's sending his stuff, it's on the book cart. You know, a little package they pass over. Maybe they had the hydraulic thing underneath in the book cart.
There you go.
Back to Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah. Let's get into the prison break now. Fred Fandrich had just arrived at his office that was located at the Hope Airport on the morning of June 18th. It was then that a masked gunman approached him. He was a helicopter pilot, and he was the target. Fred is quoted as saying, "He didn't tell me right away where we were going. In fact, he didn't tell me for about half an hour. To kill time, they headed out to a clearing near Harrison Lake along Silver Creek. When the time was right, we flew to the prison," according to Fred. The pilot was worried about being shot down in the helicopter by Kent Institute guards. As the helicopter started to drop to the prison yard, the hijacker opened fire on the prison guards. Fendrich tried to keep the helicopter moving around to try and hurt the aim of the guards. A guard, Ripley Kirby, was hit in the firefight, but he made sure to return fire. At gunpoint, Fred Fandrich landed the helicopter at Kent Institution, so like right in the friggin' yard. It touched down at 9 a.m. in the morning with a crowd of prisoners all around the yard. Seeing the ride on the ground, Robert Lee Ford and David Ross Thomas ran for it. They ran from the soccer field on the prison property and scaled a fence to boot. The other prisoners in the yard were reported to be cheering as the helicopter took off. I'd be pissed they didn't take me.
I think for me it would depend how much time I had left.
Well, this is maximum security, so I mean, I'm surprised the one guy was there with only 8 years. That's pretty short. So this was the very first ever prison break using a helicopter in Canada. It took a total of 137 seconds to complete.
You're saying it's the first. How many have there been?
I know of at least 2. I didn't look that closely. But there's been lots of helicopter prison escapes around North America over the years.
That's pretty quick. I mean, so the helicopter landed and then took right off then. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
because they were being shot at. So you couldn't be there long. It was literally, they saw it coming into land and they started running and jumped and scaled the fence and jumped in the helicopter right away. And they were gone.
I'm surprised I haven't seen a movie about this yet.
I'm surprised too, actually, yeah. Actually, one of my coworkers, before he ever worked for my company, actually did some work at that institute just after that prison break. So there was a lot of security measures.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like every tool you brought in, you were searched before you left. to make sure that
Do you
had it
have
with
helicopter keys? Be honest.
you. No. Now, the helicopter pilot was not out of his mind to work with the kidnapper. He was ready to kill anyone that got in his way. He was carrying a semi-automatic weapon and was also wearing a bulletproof vest. I mean, those aren't even really legal for Canadians to own, so it takes a little work to get them. No, it's not.
What?
You're not allowed to have body armor.
It's kind of weird.
They're trying to... It's just like our gun control here, right?
Yeah.
If it's harder to own it, then less people have it, and there's less problems.
Yeah, I guess because in this way, it's like if you have it, then maybe like you're going to start trying to get other things.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
Why would you need it? A
Yeah.
deer is not going to shoot you.
I saw a meme the other day, and it was something like Canada's had 15 mass shootings since the 1800s, and the U.S. has had something like 300 this year. So, you keep gun control, and there's lots of guns in Canada still, but if you've got a lot of laws that protect you, then you don't need as many. And if there isn't easy access to guns around people that get angry and shoot people, then...
But the
less
issue
issues.
is that people in the States play more video games than people in Canada. So it just makes sense that video games are I've played Call of Duty, and I've just, always wanted to be like, oh, I want to shoot that guy. But
I can't
because we
stop
have
playing
fucking gun
Tetris.
control, I can't get a fucking hands on a fucking gun.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I don't want to kill anyone. I
Yeah.
did play Call of Duty, though.
Yeah.
And I love Tetris.
You guys are
I cannot
too busy
stop
doing
stacking
chores,
boxes. Oh my god.
We're too busy doing what?
you guys are too busy doing chores out there, right?
Exactly. Playing Beer Hunter. It was also possible that he was wearing hand grenades on his belt, but that part I could not corroborate in my research. But
Maybe
at least a couple
they were-
sources said hand grenades. So, I mean, you're not
Wait,
going to fuck
so-
around with that guy.
They could have been avocados.
Man, so this guy went and got like a shit ton of things. He's just like, you know what? If I'm doing this, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. Yeah. It was also known that he was the first one to take a shot during the prison break. So he initiated the attack, too.
Oh, I thought you meant a shot. Like
Shot.
He had a Jaeger bomb, and then he took his avocado grenade and shoved it up his hoo-ha.
Oh, God. The prison guard that was shot had just under a year of experience on the job. Neither of the two prisoners were hurt during the escape. In the aftermath, around 40 of the inmates refused to go back to their cells. This made it almost impossible to tell who had escaped from the prison. When Fred Vandrich thinks back to the prison escape, he cannot help but think back to his thoughts at the time. He is quoted as saying, "Do I get a bullet in the head?" Luckily for him, the only blood they looked to spill was the guards at the prison. And when they landed near Harrison Lake, they only tied him up. So an RCMP spokesman said that after they landed, they abandoned the helicopter and took off in a car. So, I mean, this thing was planned
it was
well.
well planned. Yeah. Wow.
So once to Harrison Lake, they took a canoe and paddled out to Echo Island.
Oh my god, it's the most Canadian escape ever.
Yeah. So looking at a map, it seems crazy that they would go to Echo Lake, as it is so close to Harrison Hot Springs, the town. They might have had a better chance of hiding at Long Island, that's further up the lake at about 30 Mile Bay. But nope, they went to the one that you can actually see from the town.
Yeah, which would be fine unless they wanted to eat at all, in which case they'd probably want to fire.
Yeah. Fortunately for the citizens, these two criminals only had a short stint on the outside, as they were caught only 2 days after their escape.
God.
Lame.
All this, like, perfect
All that
planning.
planning.
While being brought back to court by the RCMP officers, David Ross Thomas spoke to reporters saying his short-lived freedom was enjoyable.
Best camping trip ever.
So he's quoted as saying, "Excellent. It was a blast. I loved it." He later
Fucking
added,
dweeb.
What an optimist.
"Yeah, it's
That was fun, guys."
So Canadian, right?"
Cool.
He added,
Gosh
you
darn
next
it.
year.
Gosh darn it, you caught me.
He added, "I'd do it again if I had the chance."
Oh my god.
I kind of love him.
Yeah. A man named Alan Jupp, I think it's pronounced, Jupp, was also convicted in this escape, but there was no official ruling if he was the gunman. So there's no real word about it, but only one other person was convicted, so I'm kind of assuming he must have been the guy. So after this escape, Post Media would obtain a report that was released by Correctional Services of Canada it would say that Kent Institute was still vulnerable to helicopter escapes. Now, it wasn't, it wasn't a public report, but they got a hold of it. And how pathetic. After that, you don't fix it?
But realistically, aren't all prisons that have a yard susceptible to helicopter? If you don't have a roof, then a helicopter could come in.
I mean, it's true.
Yes and no, but...
Okay, but where are all these people getting these fucking helicopters? I exactly have 0 friends with a single helicopter.
Well, they hijacked it.
Yeah.
Where the fuck do you go to hijack a helicopter?
Airport.
Okay, well, that's a logical
Were you
answer.
not listening?
The helijet.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, you can take the bus there. From
No, I
here.
know. I've taken a helijet to the island, but like, it's not like a real thing.
Well,
Yeah, they have like bait car, but like bait jet.
Bait helicopter.
Bait jet.
Seeing as it has not happened again there, I'll have to assume that they have locked down now. There is now a restricted airspace above all federal prisons in Canada.
see, that makes sense.
And that's to try to ensure this doesn't happen again. If anyone comes anywhere near a prison now, they will muster our CMP, our military helicopters, whoever is closest. So, it's probably not going to happen again. All these years later, Robert Lee Ford has been behaving satisfactorily since 2009, and this got him a transfer to a minimum security prison in 2010.
Did he escape again?
Move on to 2015, and he was able to get day parole, and then in 2016, he was granted full parole.
And he went camping.
When it comes to David Ross Thomas, I am unsure if he's still in prison or not, because I cannot find a mention of him anywhere. But I'd assume he had the shorter sentence, so he's probably out. But yeah,
Makes sense.
that's my story.
That's awesome.
That's pretty,
Wild.
In my
pretty
mind,
Canadian, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
in my mind, they have an annual camping trip in the same location.
I mean, I'd love to go to that island now.
Just like memories.
Let me just look it up
Hashtag
here.
good times.
I know there was
You're checking to see if they have an annual camping trip on
yeah,
Facebook?
exactly.
Okay.
Trying to get us invited?
No, there was. I know there was a more recent helicopter escape in Quebec. So I'm trying to see if I can find out.
I saw that they have like, because you also can't fly drones above prisons.
There you go. You know what?
Makes sense.
It looks like in 2016 there was a helicopter escape in Quebec. So they still happen.
There you go.
In 2016.
Go Quebec, right? All right. Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
Well, hopefully you had fun. And can you just give a little shout out about your show again before we close it out here?
So yeah, everybody, feel free to listen to What the Hops. You can find us on bigheadsmedia.com or wherever you really get your podcast. Again, we're a beer-based podcast out of Buffalo, New York that likes to focus a lot on hockey, music, and whatever the hell we feel like talking about.
Perfect. All right, well, let's close it out here. So if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Brew Crime. We've got a Brew Crime group on Facebook, so you can look us up on the groups. Mm-hmm. You can find us at brewcrime.com. You can find us at Big Heads Media. You can also email us at brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com.
Mm-hmm. We'd love that.
Yeah, we'd love that. You can check us out on Threadless. You can buy our merch, all kinds of shirts and sweaters and skateboards, all kinds of crazy stuff at brewcrime.threadless.com. And if you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/brewcrime. And we'd like to shout out our Patreon supporters. So we've got 3 Beers In podcast, Amber, Ange, Nina's mom, and the faves of our lives. So if you want to help support the show and help us upgrade the equipment, you want early access to episodes with no ads, then think about supporting us. Mm-hmm. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace out, home slice.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, there we go. That's the end of the episode. Woohoo!
We did it.
We did it.
Did I spell that right?
High five.
Is that right?
I think it might just be What the Hops. I'm not sure if it's... Does your Instagram have podcasts or just What the Hops?
It's What the Hops
No,
podcast.
Instagram is What the Hops podcast.
Okay.
Everything else is What the Hops.
I know.
You should
I've been
have-
going
you should-
because...
But I was
So
looking at the
there's-
spelling of Brian's name.
Oh, well,
Is it Brian?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I mean,
she tagged you on Instagram.
I just didn't want to post it and like misspell your name, and then I'd feel like a real fucktard. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there's the puppy. Is this an old photo?
Aw, Muffin!
It's a couple months old.
Oh, jeez, that's
Brody!
Yeah.
so cute. She just booped the phone.
Yeah.
Aw.
No, there is a What the Hops account on Instagram that I keep reporting as fake, but Instagram doesn't want to do anything with it.
Of course not. Yeah.
So one day I'll get Instagram to let me actually use What the Hops, and then like the world will be complete. But,
No doubt. Brewcrime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo design was by Ben Greenberg. All cases and stories were written by Beck, Nina, and Mike, and our sources are put into the show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at brewcrime.threadless.com, where you can purchase swag like t-shirts, phone cases, beach towels, and all kinds of cool stuff. We can also be found on your favorite podcast apps, our hosts, Spreaker.com, or Brewcrime.com, as well as at Brewcrime on Twitter, at Brewcrime on Facebook, at Facebook.com/groups/Brewcrime. Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Pacific Beer Chat. Now here is a promo from a fellow true crime or spooky podcast that we really enjoy. Hope you'll take a listen.
There's a darker side to Canada. Beyond hockey and maple syrup are crimes as brutal as Canada's wilderness and history as dark as Arctic winters. Join me, Mike Brown, and my co-host Scott Hemingway each week on the Dark Poutine podcast as we share stories about crime, history, and mysteries from all over our country. Head to darkpoutine.com to learn more. You won't be sorry.
Here's a promo from one of the podcasts in the Big Heads Media Network.
Calling all sports fans, are you looking for an alternate source for sports news, scores, takes, and updates? Well, look no further. On Franchise Tag Sports Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Salas, with the help of frequent guests, we'll give you all the latest and greatest on sports. That's right, I'm talking NFL, the occasional NBA and MLB, and yes, a lot more NFL. I've always loved watching the NFL, and there's no better way to talk sports than flipping on a microphone and giving my opinions on what goes on around the league. Tune in every week for brand new episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcasts. You can also find us on Twitter at Franchise Tag Pod and on Instagram at Franchise Tag Sports. It's the Franchise Tag Sports Podcast. We got the sports, you just gotta press play.
We'll agree to disagree, it's fine.
You're so angry.
She's
Okay.
passionate about that movie, I guess.
sounds like it.
She's not talking to me now.
We're
All
friends off right now.
It says 16 ounces is a lot.
Yes, it does. 5.5.
I was just trying to take it from you because my young eyes.
Side note too, I apologize for any random barking you may hear in the background if my dog decides to hear something outside and decides to bark.
No problem.
So
What
Can we
kind
see the dog?
What kind of dog is it? Yeah, hold on.
Oh,
Puppy!
Puppy.
Ah, that
Thanks for
wasn't
the high
planned.
five. Oh, sorry.
I loved it. And then Nina high-fived herself. You're amazing.
because I wasn't looking.
Nothing new.
Put the beer down, Mike. Nina needs a high five.
That's
can you
kinda
guys?
scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're back.
Did I lose you?
Just for a second.
It's usually how I feel. I'm just happy to be here. I'm like just happy
Hello?
to be included.
Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Yay!
Okay, we actually heard the end
All
of
right.
your little story there. So we had you for some reason, but you didn't have us.
Can you move the mouse? It's on his nose.
There we go.
Thank you.
How are you supposed to say that? Rowley? Raleigh?
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 Probably.
You're an idiot. Several hundred
Sorry. You just look so like unimpressed.
Oh, I just love bad jokes. Several hundred property. No, see, now it sounds like I'm laughing.
Because
and
you
it's not
are.
funny.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
Which is really only about $13 per person after legal fees.
Actually, or are you just like
No.
being a smartass?
No, it really is.
Maybe about $100 today money.
So that's almost a whole meal at McDonald's.
What?
$13?
13,000, I said.
Oh, I thought you said 13.
Oh, I heard $13
You
too.
said dollars.
Jesus.
Okay, 13,000.
Okay, I thought you said $13. So I was like, I can't tell if you're fucking
Maybe do
cuss
that
or not.
again. 13,000.
Okay, sure.
No, just keep going. Just keep going with it. It's fine.
As it turns out, this wasn't such a bad move for... no.
Waiting for the story.
I think it's going to be about prison breaks.
Yeah, well, yeah, duh. Okay. Well,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Cut. Sorry. So before we talk about the beer that I picked and why I picked it, essentially I'm just going to do the Escape from Alcatraz, which I think anyone should know because it's freaking Alcatraz. I can't even say words. Anyways, we're going to start that again.
Take 3. Belgian fruit.
While you guys are drinking that, I moved on to Iron Tug Brewing Superstition Stout. It is a peanut butter banana stout.
Ooh.
And it's out of Rochester and sits at 8%. Trying to stick a little local. And
we're definitely not.
Have you had that before?
I have not, actually. The banana's making it... It's coming off a little sweeter. This is about a month old now, so still not too bad. Doesn't taste artificial, though, which is one of those things that you're always kind of afraid of when...
When it tastes like banana-flavored medicine instead of banana?
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
I love banana-flavored things, though. Banana-flavored Slurpees are literally my jam.
They are really good, but sometimes
Well,
it tastes like banana chalk.
I'll pretty much eat fucking anything banana, so it's fine.
Alrighty. God. This beer is kind of belchy.
Yeah.
It is.
Belchy Belgian.
It's all that Belgian yeast you guys had.
Yeah.
And I lost where I'm at. I don't fucking know where I am again. Yeah, so they spent a bunch of weeks constructing... Nope, that's not where I was, actually. This escapees... Every time I hear or read the word escape, I think of Finding Nemo when they go escape, and it's spelled like just like the word escape.
Yeah.
And I can't like fucking unsee it every time I see this stupid word.
What a good movie.
Great movie.
Oh, I think we lost you there for a second.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you said the government, and then it cut out.
Oh, I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Where'd you get your pillow? I love it.
My roommate got it as a Christmas gift. So
who knows?
I thought you said your roommate was the pillow.
No, I have 2 roommates.
That's a shitty roommate because they don't pay.
I feel bad for your real roommate because you refer to the pillow as your first roommate. Well, if you're listening, roommate number 2, you're number 2 for a reason.
I mean, once you have the image of Nicolas Cage in your house, it's kind of becomes the main part of the house, I guess, right?
Yeah. What are you 2 doing over there?
I just have to give her instructions to take this boomerang. Can you cut off this arm so it only looks like there's one fat arm?
The boomerang of you drinking it.
Oh, me drinking it, not posing with it.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Are you guys posting on Instagram right now? On the
I don't think they are right
Instagram?
yet, but that's going to be great because she doesn't like the beer, so she took a big sip of it and then made that, like, awful sour face.
Oh my god.
Let's see it.
I fucking hate this so bad, but we might have to post it.
I think... Oh, yeah, we do have to post that. Can you see this? Oh, wow.
Put it on your Instagram story so it's there only for today, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Prison bar cell. Or
later.
Or later.
No,
or not.
Just
kidding.
And then I get to the name and I'm like... Okay. When the time was right... Oh.
The time was wrong.
No, it's...
Speaking of games, gotta feed my chickens.
Oh my god, you fucking chickens.
Oh, Jesus.
They're not real, Nina.
They can hear you.
All right. I'll take another sip of beer. I need another one.
I do love a man that plans. You're organized? You're an organized criminal. Shit, fuck. I didn't read the whole sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'll be here all day.
Who's buzzing?
I don't know. It's not me.
I don't know. I'm not hearing it. All right.
Oh, might be me.
Okay.